Common mistake change leaders make shows up when leaders mismanage the polarity of impact. I heard it stated once that leading change isn't a problem to solve, but a polarity to manage. Leaders must ensure the current business model is secure, yet agile and adaptable enough to interweave the new change into the current model's nuances without too much disruption to the business or the team. Managing polarity successfully shows up when company leaders lead and manage change while at the same time are able to keep the foundational business operations smooth and intact. Mismanaging this polarity happens most often when leaders fail to plan for and sometimes even recognize in advance what the new change's impact would be on the established business and procedures. This also shows up when we as leaders fail to mind the gaps. Mind the gap is a common British warning you often see prior to boarding the train or any public transportation. There's always a sign screaming at you, "Caution, be careful, warning, don't fall flat on your face, you busy rush people. Slow down and mind the gap." Let's look at key gaps that are often missed prior to launching change. These gaps are the disruptors that impede a leader's ability to manage the polarity of the change and the business. First are internal gaps. These become obstacles when we fail to adequately assess internal factors that may affect the change's success prior to rolling it out. These can be foundational gaps or ones that have arisen from leaders and teams not following and abiding current company policies, processes, or procedures. I often refer to this as loosey-goosey environments where the leader isn't consistent in their expectations of all team members. External gaps arise when we neglect to adequately assess, then strategize for any external factors that may affect the organizational change. This requires you to consider things outside the sphere of your organization's control that could impact the adoption of the change you are attempting to implement. Examples of external gaps might be changes with your competition or changes in governing policies that impact the work you do. Human gaps are best identified when we consider the organization's operational ability to absorb new change by reviewing behaviors from past change projects that showed concerning or resulted in poor implementation and adoption of past change. Also consider if oversaturation of change is already in play and being absorbed by the stakeholders. Now, the best approach to identify culture gaps is to conduct a pre-change culture assessment of the organization to determine any elements within that may help or hinder the change direction and the ability to achieve the expected benefits. While expectation gap is listed last on my list, it tends to be the most important consideration. It shows up when leaders fail to mind the gap between expectations and reality. My experience and many change studies show that change leaders find greater success leading their stakeholders through change when the change plan is approached in a way that it won't overstretch their current resources, or in other words, won't increase stakeholders' workloads past the point of reality. Way too many change projects have failed solely from a plan that failed to consider the extra work the change project will add to already heavy workloads. It's an intricate dance that takes place trying to manage this polarity, and it often takes trial and error to find that balance. I'm sure you can all think back to a time when a change was implemented, and after the fact, it was realized how the change disrupted a business rhythm or process to a point that the problem of fixing the issues the change created superseded the benefits of the original change. Yes, this is certainly a critical misstep when we fail to mind the gap during our strategy and plan building phases.